Hi, vacation rental owner or manager. Since we're in the hospitality and real estate industry, maybe you've been hearing about 2026 design trends and you've been thinking, do I actually need to pay attention to this for my STR? Well, we'll talk about it. This episode is for STR owners who want listings that photograph well, where guests can feel good when they are there and stay there and enjoy it and give good reviews. And also, if you want design decisions that won't backfire 6 months later. I'll make this episode quick and practical. Listen in. Hi, vacation rental owner. I am Cara Shimizu, and welcome to the Step Up Your STR podcast, which is all about designing in a specialized way so that you can make max revenue from your property. I have designed dozens of STRs, all of which charge in the top 10% of their area competitors or make up to 153% more after working with me. All right, so we are at the beginning of 2026 as I'm recording this. And the question is, do you actually need to pay attention to trends for your rental properties? I'd say yes, because at some point during this year, when you need to update something in your property, design trends will be in your face. And I want to equip you to choose wisely. Now, the real answer is some trends do matter, some don't. And a few will actively hurt your listing if you follow them blindly. So today I want to walk you through the good, the bad, and the ugly of 2026 STR design trends. Not from a magazine, a design magazine point of view, but from a revenue and booking point of view, which is what I deal in all the time. I decorate so that you can get more bookings and revenue. So today, when I look at trends and magazine articles, it kind of feels like a lot of hype, maybe even a little fear mongering. But today I want to help you really think clearly. Okay, let's start with the good. These are trends that will actually help STRs in 2026. Good trend number one is experience first design. Here, I'm not talking just nice rooms. Guests in 2026, they will want a space that feels intentional, not just well decorated, but that they can actually have a different experience. I always say that good STR decorating, in order for it to be successful and actually make you money, it has to be different from regular house decorating. People don't want to go to a regular house. They want something a little different, unique, and it will give them a really neat experience. So what this means practically is each room has a purpose, a focal point, and nothing feels accidental. So for STRs, this is huge because guests decide before they read anything on your listing. How your STR looks, how it's decorated, is the first line of contact that a potential guest has with you. They scroll and they're scrolling through a lot and they might glance and then they move on, especially if your place won't stand out. So instead of asking, what furniture should I buy? What trends should I follow? A better question is, what's the moment in this room? What's the thing that reads instantly in photos and it makes the space feel memorable and interesting and that will give the room a clear identity? One strong moment per room beats 5 competing little ideas every time. Now, this trend works because it aligns perfectly with how guests choose a place to rent. Good trend number 2 is oversized sculptural lighting. This is one of my favorite predictions for 2026. Statement lighting that actually earns its keep and pays you back. Not trendy little novelty lights, not fussy fixtures, definitely not the row of pendants that's like over every kitchen island, but oversized, really amazing sculptural lighting that anchors a room, creates visual hierarchy, and photographs beautifully. And STRs Lighting often does too little. Owners don't put enough or thought or investment into their light fixtures. When you introduce one substantial fixture over a dining table or in a living room, and definitely in a bedroom, that fixture immediately elevates the space. Now, here's the key: one statement fixture per space, not everywhere. So, this means if you have an open concept living area, where the living room opens into the dining room, which opens into the kitchen, even if it's really large, you can still only have one really big statement fixture in that space. When lighting becomes the visual anchor, here's a really great benefit: you don't need as much decor. That big light fixture can carry the space for you. And from a listing photo standpoint, this works incredibly well. Definitely, it's interesting. Scale, which we see way too little of. We don't see huge, big scaled items very often in STR listing photos. And amazing light fixtures like this give the eye somewhere to land. This is a good, quote unquote, good trend because it's visually impactful, relatively easy to update. You're only updating one thing, and it's not dependent on little fussy decor. Good trend number 3, warmth and softness. Guests are tired of cold, sterile spaces. So here I'm thinking all white and definitely all gray or an abundance of gray. How much colder can it get? Gray. Please steer away from that. That's not the thing to do in 2026. For STRs, warmth does not mean clutter. It means softer materials, warm toned light, and contrast that feels inviting. Warmth will be coming from, look to add warmth with your wood tones, layering your textiles, like having a really beautiful faux fur throw along with a basket beside it. Also, fabric that feels livable, like soft, sumptuous velvets, and spaces that feel finished, complete, not bare or stark. The important STR distinction here is restraint. Warmth works when it's controlled. You're not trying to create a moody, dark room. For sure, you're not trying to do that, but you are trying to create a space that feels welcoming on camera and in real life. Good trend number 5 is tech that disappears. Guests still want convenience, but they don't really want to think about it. It's really nice when it's seamless. The trend is tech that works intuitively, stays visually quiet, and does not require instructions. If guests have to troubleshoot your lighting or locks or definitely your TV, that becomes friction. And in 2026, the best tech is the kind that guests barely notice. Okay, those are the good trends. Here's a quick recap. Experience first rooms. Intentional, amazing statement lighting. Warmth without heaviness. Layered lighting with a few lamps at least. And invisible tech. All right, now let's talk about what not to do. I'm going to go into what I consider the bad trends that are risky or fading away where STRs are concerned. So bad trend number 1, boucle furniture. Boucle is it's a type of fabric, and it's kind of like that teddy bear nubby fabric. It can look quite pretty. It photographs nicely, but it is not STR friendly. Here's why. It shows wear really fast. It traps dirt, it pills, and it's really difficult to clean thoroughly. So in a private home, boucle could be lovely, but in an STR with constant turnover, it ages fast and it doesn't age well. And so the problem isn't the look, it's the life cycle. And guests might not tell you directly, but worn, dingy fabrics impact how clean a space feels. Okay, bad trend number 2, wall treatments that are large scale, like with Roman clay, lime wash, or like heavy textured walls. These finishes are having a moment because there's actually a return of the Tuscan trend, like from the early 2000s. I understand why. These walls can look beautiful, especially when you see it with gorgeous lighting in the right setting, like in Italy. They look beautiful, they feel artisanal, and they can photograph nicely at first. But for STRs, they are risky because they get permanently dirty really easily. They show scuffs immediately. They're hard to clean, if not impossible. And if you want to reverse them back to smooth walls, that's very expensive. So, this is a classic example of a trend that works better in editorial photos than in high turnover properties like our STRs. Once these types of walls are marked up, they don't look clean again, and that affects guest perception quickly. Bad trend number 3, overly moody, dark academia type rooms. Dark, dramatic spaces, I see them everywhere right now. And while they can look stunning, especially in person, they often look terrible in listing photos because dark rooms absorb light. They flatten photos. They tend to make spaces feel smaller and cluttered, and you lose detail of what's actually in the room in those online photos. STRs live and die by photography. And if a room doesn't read clearly in photos, it doesn't matter how atmospheric it might feel in person. Guests scrolling through are not going to get that far. This trend can work in very specific luxury contexts, but for most STRs, it's a booking liability. Okay, so those are my bad STR design predictions. Let's recap. Boucle furniture, textured wall treatments that age poorly, and dark, heavy rooms that don't photograph well. Now, let's talk about the ugly. This is our last section. These are trends that I think actively will hurt your STR's performance. Ugly trend number 1, all black hardware everywhere. This one often surprises people because black hardware can look modern and graphic. It looks high contrast, but in STRs, all black hardware scratches easily. It shows wear immediately. It chips over time. It starts to look tired fast. And honestly, when you have all black hardware, it looks kind of cheap. Like everything was just, spray painted. And if you see some movement back there, that's my little daughter trying to help our dog. Anyway, back to the black hardware. Once the finish wears on it, it really looks cheap. It does not look modern or cool anymore. And replacing hardware throughout a whole property, that adds up in price quickly. So this is one of those trends that can look bold, but again, does not age well under constant use, and I think often looks cheap from the get-go. Ugly trend number 2, blob furniture. This is something that has been going for maybe a year and a half now. This is the type of furniture that is shapeless. It literally looks like a blob. And it's just in a lot of design magazines and catalogs, but it's a problem for STRs because photos look best with structured pieces. If you've ever sat on a really bumpy, lumpy one of those blob furniture pieces, one of the sofas, it's not comfortable. And this is a trend that will date very quickly. In listing photos, blob furniture looks slouchy and visually messy. STRs benefit from clarity, clean lines, readable silhouettes, and furniture that visually anchors the room. So avoid blob furniture. Ugly trend number 3, exaggerated main furniture, especially upholstery pieces. This is a big one. When the main furniture piece, like especially seating, sofas, dining, seating, even beds, if those are exaggerated in style, fabric, the patterns on them, or the shape, it dates the entire space very fast. Patterned upholstery in STRs is especially risky because it limits appeal. Those types of pieces dominate photos, and they also lock you into a moment in time and into a particular style. In rentals, though, your large pieces should ideally be neutral, timeless, and visually calm. Save personality for pillows and art, smallish lighting like lamps, that's pretty easy to replace, and the styling that you might use. Ugly trend number 4, lack of symmetry. This one is subtle but powerful. Asymmetry can look interesting in editorial design, but in STR listing photos, a lack of symmetry typically reads as chaotic. Guests are not analyzing design, they're scrolling fast, they're just scanning along. When they see a room with symmetry, it feels calm, organized, and it does photograph nicely. And it's easy for photographers to get a good shot of a symmetrical or at least a balanced room. So here with symmetry, think matching nightstands, similar seating groups. And, if you have a few beds in the room, make sure that they match. Symmetry in these ways helps the space feel intentional and clean. When rooms feel visually chaotic, guests subconsciously interpret that as dirty. Okay, so the ugly trends recap: all black hardware looks cheap. Blob furniture, I think it's simply ugly and it's going to date fast. Exaggerated or patterned main furniture, it's not so appealing to everyone and it locks you into a particular style that you actually may or may not like, as well as guests. And finally, lack of symmetry. Now, these trends don't just fade, they'll cost you money. So here's the big takeaway: 2026 STR trends and those design items, it's not about being trendy, to be honest. That's the word we want to avoid. We want STR design in 2026 instead to be clear. Clarity in photos, layout, and intention. Those will give you the most successful rentals in 2026. They're easy to understand visually. They're warm because that's comfortable. Really interesting without needing to be loud, and designed with real guest behavior in mind. So before you follow any trend, ask, does this help my listing photograph better? Does this feel clean and calming to a guest? Will this still look good after 100 days? And if the answer is no, skip it. Designing for STRs is different. It's different if you want your STR to be most successful. It's not the same as designing to live in your own home or designing to sell a home. It's designing to make your space look its very best online so that you'll get more bookings and revenue. And the hosts who understand that are the ones who will win. All right, I want to remind you, in case you didn't know, I have a nice webpage on my website that has all kinds of freebies that are really practical and useful for owners and property managers. I will leave the link for it in the description. Go ahead and check it out. I think you'll like it. And if you think that this episode might be helpful for one of your friends in our industry, please do share it. And thanks for listening. I look forward to talking again next time.